This is a clip from one of our recent live streams. We stream live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. As a reminder, this is our second channel, Fish the Moment Live. Our main channel, Fish the Moment, is where we have all of our highly edited YouTube content. We spend 30 to 40 hours a week producing one YouTube video that's posted on the Fish the Moment channel every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. These videos include on-the-water footage of us actually fishing, as well as detailed instruction on how to use electronics, fish offshore, and a lot of other great information. Make sure to check out the Fish the Moment channel if you enjoy the content on this channel. And we're live. What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another Fish the Moment live stream. Tonight, Randy and I are going to be talking about some techniques that we use to trigger big bass in the summertime. Randy's going to be covering the shallow water tactics, and I'm going to be talking about the offshore strategies. So it should be a really good stream tonight. Randy, how's it going?
Doing good, Johnny, man. And I love summertime fishing. It's just like if it was up to me, I would just want nothing but a t-shirt and shorts on. And when you get out in the morning, you can get out there at 7 o'clock in the morning and you can run down the lake with t-shirts and shorts on and be comfortable. So this is my favorite time of year to fish.
For sure, same here. The offshore fishing is always really good this time of year, and we can always get after it, both shallow and offshore, especially with all the high water we've had recently. So, should be a really good stream. How to trigger big bass in the summertime. And we kind of have a list here of things that we feel like are the four main things you need to do to trigger big bass. And the first thing that I feel like a lot of guys underestimate about catching big bass in the summertime is that big bass really like fast moving baits. And what I mean by a fast moving bait is not just a bait that is reeled quickly, but also a bait that falls quickly, a bait that is moving through the water fast. The faster your bait is moving, it seems like, when it's in proximity to a big bass, the better chance you have of triggering that bite. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the offshore baits that I use and some of the offshore techniques, and then Randy will talk about some of his shallow water techniques as well. So, Randy, actually, let me have you, take the lead here and talk to us about some of the ways you use fast-moving baits to trigger those summertime bass up shallow.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on the part of the country I'm in because like I said, if I'm fishing in the southeast part of the country where there's a lot of like matted vegetation, hydrilla, hyacinths, that type of stuff, obviously punching that big heavy weight, like the ounce and a quarter up to 2 ounce weight, getting that reaction strike in the summertime is going to be a real key deal. And the other time is sort of like a different type of flipping situation when you're in any type of a wood cover, whether it be laydowns around docks, brush, and that type of stuff, is using a really heavy jig, like a 1 ounce jig in the summertime of the year in shallow water is a real key to generating those bigger bites. And a lot of times when you're using the big jig like that, you're not getting a lot of bites, but when you get one, that line just jumps 2 foot in the air and it's usually a good one when they hit it. And, you're talking about water visibilities of less than 3 feet. Water depth of less than 3 feet, water visibilities of normally less than 2 feet in there. And that's been a really good producer for me as far as speed. The other thing that works good, there's two other applications that I found that really generate quality bites in man-made impoundments. And one is just like what you said, is the speed of retrieve, specifically in my situation, around big square bill crankbaits. I'll use that Megabass 2.0 S crank. Sometimes I'll use like a 3-inch balsa square bill, something like that. And you've even seen it with me, Johnny. You fish some of that square bill stuff in the summertime, and it's all about the speed. It's all about generating that reaction strike with that big square bill crankbait that's moving a lot of water in that right combination of water clarity, cover, and depth. And that's the whole key on there, because when you're dealing with jig fishing or crankbait fishing, anything like that in the summertime of the year, for the most part, I'm looking in those parts of the lake that have, more stained water and a diversity of cover in that stained water. So it's a combination of the speed of retrieve and the cover both. And the last thing that I would look for is probably the number one baits that I've caught the most big fish on the summertime with the speed of retrieve variations is a big buzz bait and a whopper plopper. For me, when I'm fishing summertime, big baits like that, I'm talking about I'm catching these fish in the middle of the day. I'm not getting these good bites early in the morning. These good bites come after everybody has put it down. And it's basically about burning those baits back to the boat in a real erratic fashion. Whether if I'm fishing a whopper plopper or like a zoom frog, horny toad, buzz bait, all those baits that have a lot of surface commotion that you reel straight back to the boat. It's all about keeping that rod tip high, reeling that bait fast through the water column, and really just stop and go as much as you can, getting that bait moving fast and real erratic. And it's a deal where you're not going to get a lot of bites, but you get in the right combination of the cover, the water clarity, and that type of stuff, you can generate some big bites under those conditions. So from the shallow water perspective, for me, it's the punch rig, heavy punch rig. It's the big 1 ounce jig. It's the big square bills moving fast, whopper plopper, horny toad, and buzz bait.
Good deal there. Yeah, that's the thing that a lot of guys I feel like don't understand when they go up fishing shallow in the summer is they think that because it's hot and it's, muggy, stuff like that, you need to fish real slow, methodical, use light baits, try to trigger those bites because they're lethargic. That's just not the case at all. And just to give you one example, guys, of that jig deal that Randy's talking about, I was fishing high school fishing world finals and finished second out of like 200 boats. And the way we were catching them, we were fishing on Lake Dardanelle, which is shallow, muddy lake. And we went to this big stretch of lily pads here. And the edge of those lily pads were in no more than 4 feet of water. And guys were going through these lily pads with frogs like crazy. Everyone was throwing a frog down these lily pads. It was just like a circus, like a merry-go-round. People were just going back and forth on these pads with a frog, and there were other stretch of pads as well. What I found, though, is that in practice, if we went right behind everybody and flipped a 1 ounce jig in 4 foot of water through those pads, we could get bit behind everybody. I mean, like, so many people were fishing these pads, and we could go right behind anyone in the entire lake flipping a 1 ounce jig. It literally hit the bottom in like half a second because it was falling so fast. I mean, as soon as it got in the water, it was on the bottom, and basically those fish would bite it as soon as that bait hit the bottom, as it went straight past their face. And we would go behind everyone flipping in 4 foot of water with a 1 ounce jig and absolutely crush them. And we had some really big 5 and 6 pounders doing it throughout the week. Obviously finished second doing it, so it was a really good pattern. And I feel like there's so many applications where you can use a heavy jig, not even just in lily pads. We caught some fish as well, like in the backs of pockets and coves and stuff like this, where you had just isolated laydowns and stuff like that. And we were flipping on isolated laydowns in 2 foot of water, 3 foot of water with a 1 ounce jig. And that was middle of the summer, July, and getting big bites. Again, like Randy mentioned, it's not a numbers deal, but it's definitely a big bite deal. And I think that that's just really overlooked. We're not talking about fishing a 1 ounce jig offshore in the middle of the lake. We're literally talking about in the middle of the summer up shallow. If you enjoy our videos and want a free and easy way to support the channel, head to our website, fishthemoment.com. Then head to the Support Fish the Moment page. Here you'll find our Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. If you click this link, then check out on Tackle Warehouse, we'll get a small percentage of your sales. The way this works is that we have a special link with Tackle Warehouse. So if you bookmark this link on your web browser and then click it every single time you visit Tackle Warehouse, you'll be supporting Fish the Moment with every bait you buy. So the other thing that, obviously I do is I do offshore fishing, and so similar concepts apply there. And a couple baits that I throw a lot, guys, in the summertime are really big crankbaits, really big, heavy spoons. These are two of the best ways you can trigger big bass. And it seems like, we'll kind of get into this a little bit later, a bigger bait also helps as well. We'll talk about that here in a second. But really what you'll find is like a bait like this. This is a 6.5 inch mini Magnum Ben Parker flutter spoon. It's a 2 ounce spoon, so it's really, really heavy. It's kind of hard to cast, but this thing falls pretty quickly. And what I find is that with this spoon, falling fast, and then basically ripping it up off the bottom really fast, it will trigger so many big fish to bite And you can go throw a football jig, you can throw a wacky ray worm, a drop shot, all these other baits on these fish in the summertime and not get a single bite. But then you can pull out this big Magnum flutter spoon and rip it past their face really quickly and catch a lot of fish. You don't even need a heavy bait, honestly, to do it. Another great bait is like a hair jig. This is just a 1/2 ounce hair jig, but the thing with it is that I'll let that thing sink to the bottom, and then when it hits the bottom, I'm going to reel it super fast, 7 or 8 times, to pop it off the bottom and bring it right past those fish's face, and it will trigger a lot of bites from those inactive big largemouth. And if I kind of pull up a little graphic here that I just put together while Randy was talking, we have a big bass here. Let's say it's a 5 or 6 pound bass. And what you basically do with that flutter spoon or with the hair jig is you get that bait on the bottom, let it sink down the bottom, and then rip it up off the bottom as fast as possible. The way I do this is either by reeling it really fast or basically setting the hook on the spoon so it pops up really fast off the bottom, then falls back down and flutters past those fish. And what you'll find is that the majority of the fish aren't biting that bait as it's slowly fluttering down to the bottom. What happens is that bait is pulled up past their face, and as soon as that bait stops and starts to fall, that's when you get 98% of your bites. It's not when that spoon is actually falling. Now, I do get more bites when the spoon is falling in the fall, in like the September, October, November time of the year. But in the summer, most of your bites on that big spoon are going to be right after you rip it really high off the bottom and right as it begins to fall. And I have a complete video explaining how to fish a flutter spoon on the main Fish the Moment channel. If you want more info, literally just go there and type in Fish the Moment flutter spoons. I have a complete guide, what to look for on the fish finder, the type of areas, structure, cover, everything like that, plus the spoons I use, the setup, everything. So definitely check out that video. But really, it's that aggressive motion past those fish that triggers all the bites. Another thing I do that really helps is throwing like a big crankbait. This is the Megabass Big M 7.5. This is literally the biggest crankbait you can get on the market. Here's that 6.5 inch Magnum flutter spoon, and then here is just like a regular football jig. So you can see that bait, actually it's a pretty big football jig, but you can see that bait is really, really big. It's 5 inches long, and the reason I throw this bait, it's expensive, but the reason I throw it, I don't throw it around brush piles, but I throw it around ledges and stuff where I'm not going to get it hung up. But the reason I throw this bait is because it is a big bait that pulls a lot of water, moves a lot of water, but I can also reel it really fast. It doesn't drag that bad, and the bill isn't as cupped as like a 10XD. So you can actually reel this bait faster than a 10XD crankbait or any of those other big Magnum crankbaits, but it still gets down there to that 20-25 foot range. And I can reel this thing as fast as physically possible back to the boat, and the faster you reel this thing, the more bites you're going to get. And what I'll do is I'll reel it really, really fast for maybe 5-10 seconds, then just kill it for half a second, and then keep reeling it super fast. And that triggers so many big bites for me in the summer, especially on ledges. And I'll throw that bait even in like 15 foot of water when other guys are throwing a 6XD crankbait. I'll go to that bigger bait and reel it faster, really, really fast, and I get so many big bites. So that's really the deal, guys, with triggering big bass in the summertime. Speed is your friend. Whether it's fishing a topwater fast, fishing a crankbait fast, a floater spoon, you just need to fish bass or fish fast for those bass, and you're going to trigger them. Would you agree, Randy?
Yeah, one thing I'll add to that, the comment you made on the spoon, as far as they get it when you jerk it up hard. If you guys remember, they had a Bassmaster Elite Series tournament on Lake St. Clair 4 or 5 years ago that Jason Christie won.
Yeah.
He was doing the same thing with a heavy tube. He was taking like a 3/4 ounce tube, ripping it up off the bottom and triggering those big smallmouth to hit that you wouldn't have caught if he was using like a 1/4 ounce or 3/8 that most people use. So that's a big deal there too. And real quick, I want to answer this question. I think Aaron was asking about how do you choose between the jig and the punch rig in the summertime. For me, the punch rig is all about vegetation. If I'm pitching hyacinths, matted grass, pads, that type of stuff. And the jig is more if I'm fishing flooded bushes, laydowns, wood. So wood for the jig, punch rig for vegetation.
Good deal. Perfect. So that's really the deal there, guys, with moving your baits fast. I cannot emphasize that enough. That's the number one thing I feel like that allows both Randy and I to trigger more bites, whether it's getting a bait that falls faster than your average bait or a bait that you can work faster or like a spoon that you can rip off the bottom really quickly. You just need something that changes direction fast or moves quickly. You'll get a lot bigger bites. Thanks for checking out the video. If you made it this far, we'd really appreciate if you left a like on the video. It helps us out with the YouTube algorithm and gets these videos out to more people. Also consider subscribing. It's free and it lets you get notifications of every single one of our videos that we upload daily. Finally, remember to check out the main Fish the Moment channel, where we actually have on-the-water fishing footage as well as detailed graphics on electronics, offshore fishing, bass behavior, and a lot of other great information. Thanks for checking out the video, and we'll see you on the next one.